In 2010, overall price increases were relatively modest. Looking ahead, though, businesses expect to increase prices on their own products and services in 2011, as shown in this chart. For example, 47% of respondents from the retail sector expect to charge higher prices, but only 7% expect to drop prices. This equates to a diffusion index number of 70. Meanwhile, respondents from the battered construction industry expect to keep prices level. In addition to prices, incomes are also expected to rise in all states except North Dakota. Consumers across most of the district should have more income to spend on products and services. According to the Minneapolis Fed's forecasting models, overall personal income should grow faster in 2011 than in 2010. The largest gains are in Minnesota and South Dakota. The model predicts a drop in income in North Dakota, which likely reflects the volatile nature of agriculture and energy. With this increase in income, most business leaders expect consumer spending to increase in their communities. Overall poll results indicate that 30% expect increased consumer spending, while 19% expect decreased consumer spending in 2011. Half the respondents from North Dakota expect increases, while only 21% of respondents from northwestern Wisconsin expect increases. Now let's turn to the outlook for particular sectors. First, the agriculture sector. In 2010, farmers experienced nearly ideal conditions. They were early into the fields and early out with harvest. As shown in the bottom map, almost the whole 9th District is drought-free, which is a lot different from conditions back in 2003, as shown in the top map. However, excessively wet conditions, especially in South Dakota, hurt some producers. Farmers enjoyed a bumper harvest as well as solid output prices. They had a good year. Meanwhile, many meat and dairy producers faced higher feed costs, but this was more than offset by higher output prices. The outlook for 2011 is upbeat. According to the results of our quarterly survey of agricultural lenders, producers expect higher profits and plan to increase capital spending. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture forecasts, 2011 prices for corn, soybeans, wheat, steers, and hogs are expected to increase. Meanwhile, sugar beet farmers face uncertainty regarding legal rulings on planting genetically modified seeds. Next, we turn to the manufacturing sector. Evidence from 2 surveys reveals that manufacturing sector activity will grow in 2011. The survey of manufacturers indicates that manufacturing activity edged up in 2010. Production and employment increased, while profits and capital investment were flat. Respondents expect somewhat faster growth in 2011 and see increases in production, employment, profits, and investment. More evidence of expanding activity comes from the manufacturing respondents to the Business Outlook poll. Nearly 2/3 of the respondents from the manufacturing sector expect increased sales in 2011, and only 7% expect decreased sales, which translates into a diffusion index of 79. Many manufacturers expect increased sales to be accompanied by higher employment and capital investment. Let's turn to the housing sector. The residential real estate markets have been in turmoil over the past year, with government supporting the market with tax credits. As the incentives were removed, home sales suffered as much as ever. However, home building has finally stopped declining and is inching up after several years of serious declines. During the first 10 months of 2010, housing units authorized increased by 10.2% in the district from the same period in 2009. Housing units authorized increased in 2010 from 2009 levels, but are still significantly below levels observed over the past 30 years. For example, in 2004, there were about 40,000 housing units authorized annually in Minnesota. Now it is down to about 10,000 units. Since forecasting models typically rely on long-term and recent trends, it is not surprising that the model points to a continued steep drop in these states. For this reason, we doubt that authorizations will decrease as much as the model projects in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Meanwhile, small decreases are expected for North Dakota, and growth is expected in Montana and South Dakota. To get more evidence on the housing conditions, we turn to the Outlook poll. Business leaders expect the housing market to have continued problems in 2011. You can see on this chart of results from the poll that the diffusion index is below 50 across all portions of the district except North Dakota. However, business leaders were mostly more optimistic than they were in last year's poll. Meanwhile, the commercial real estate and construction markets remained weak. Vacancy rates for office space in Minneapolis-St. Paul area rose to 19.9% during the second quarter of 2010 from 19.6% at year-end 2009. At the same time, the percentage of available space in industrial buildings increased in 2010 to 16.7% from 15.8%. Increases in vacancy rates reduce pressure on rental prices and dampen future construction. In summary, the mild economic recovery currently underway is expected to warm up in 2011. According to the Minneapolis Fed's forecasting models and outlook surveys, businesses are more optimistic, as respondents to the Minneapolis Fed's Business Outlook poll have expressed renewed optimism following 2 years of pessimism. Employment levels are expected to increase in all areas of the district in 2011, but unemployment rates are predicted to stay about the same. Meanwhile, small wage increases are expected. Among industry sectors, agriculture and manufacturing are anticipated to grow, while home building will likely remain weak.